Frankie played it 3 times one night. I mean, I missed that bravery. I was at Shelter one night ages ago, and Circa de Me, it wasn't out yet, but Timmy had it. He played it 3 or 4 times that night. You don't have that kind of bravery anymore. People imposing their musical will. You got like a bunch of chicken-hearted superstars who just want to be liked out here. It's like the crowd tells them what to do. They don't impose their musical will.
Today is Saturday, December 21st, 2024. Who are we speaking with?
My name is Elbert Phillips. I'm a DJ, producer, creative person.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I believe I would want it to be one of quality productions, quality sets of music, quality writings, quality art, and all that.
Love it. I love it. What is your intention when you DJ?
On the most basic level, play some cool stuff that may not get played out a whole lot.
What's your earliest memory of being moved by music in Chicago's South Side, and how did that moment shape your path?
Well, my home. I lived on the west side of Chicago a lot of my life, and I'm just now coming back south. I've been south now for probably about 12 years. But yeah, as a boy, I lived southeast primarily, 96th at Merrill, 80th and Coles. And for 2 years of my life, we were on the West Coast in LA. But yeah, my earliest memories was my mother's record collection. She had a lot of records. Oh, wow. She had a whole lot of records. I ruined these records, man. I ruined these records because I would take a pencil, put the record on the pencil, spin it around, and take a sewing needle and put it. Yeah. I was 3, 4 years old. You know what I'm saying? I was.
Oh my God.
I ruined a lot of. She didn't whip my ass. I mean, I ruined her records.
Wow. Tell me about the first time you snuck in a club to hear a DJ spin. What was that experience like for you?
Well, I didn't have to do a lot of sneaking. My situation was different from a lot of folk my age. I'm 55 years old, and I wasn't one to get into nefarious activity, but I was a street kid. I'm the youngest of 3 siblings. There would have been 4 of us, but I had a sister who was murdered before I was born. And from what I understand, the perpetrator basically, it was somebody my mother was dating, and he basically got away. And as a result, my mother's life unraveled. And while she was going through these changes, I was running the street, going to parties. So yeah, while a lot of my peers were at home getting good grades, I was at the music box in musical training. The first party I went to some neighborhood house parties, but my first party proper was a place on 13th, 14th and Michigan called the Playground. The Playground was a teen club that Farley was a Saturday night resident. Farley Funkin' Keith was a popular DJ in Chicago. He was also a member of the WBMX DJ team. So on Saturday nights, he had the residency at the Playground. I believe Jesse Saunders was Friday. I'm not 100%, but this was the summer of 1983. My sister was going to the Playground before me with her friends and all. And my boys, they were in the Hot Mix 5 and all that, but the situations were different than mine. They were not allowed out the house like that. So we might have went together to a place called Da Vinci Manor on the west side, might have went to Resurrection, which was a Catholic school that threw parties, for money. You charge kids, admission to get in. We might have did that kind of stuff together, but the Playground, I ventured out on my own to do that. A couple of my buddies, they were like, yeah, we're going. And Saturday night comes and I'm the person making the journey by myself. It was a one bus ride. The Roosevelt Road bus, the number 12, was the bus I took going east. I was on the west side. It was probably like a 45-minute to an hour bus ride going through a bunch of different neighborhoods, but the Playground was downtown or in the South Loop, so it wasn't a neighborhood per se. There was a traffic court across the street, and I think they were unloading people, prisoners or something one night. The night that I went, the Playground had like two lines, one for guys, one for girls, and of course, they moved the girls' line along quicker, so they'd be in there, and these Playground dudes, they were not nice guys, a lot of them, because there were two lines, and should a not so hot looking girl come down the middle of both come down the line, these dudes would bark. We were kids, kids are cruel,
That's savage. That's
Yeah,
savage.
yeah. And funny thing is, in summer 83, the thing to do was to dress preppy. Every guy in line had a polo Ralph Lauren shirt on, be it a button-down, pastel colors, or a regular polo shirt. Every dude, including myself. So yeah, finally get in. I'm checking the room out, and I didn't stay long. I don't even think I was there for an hour. The one thing I got from it all was the DJ booth, because it was unique in that the DJ coffin, was on chains to the ceiling. Never seen nothing like that before. I was like, wow, that's cool. But once again, I didn't even stay long. I saw that. I was, checking out the music. I think the only thing I remember hearing was, and the song was the rage that summer, New Order, Confusion. I think once Confusion was over, or I might, maybe two other songs played, and I was there, but nothing compelled me to stay. So I left and I came back home. That was the summer of 83. I became a high school freshman in the fall of 84. And I ended up going to the Playground again. But this time I went on a Friday night. And Andre Hatchett was the DJ. And unlike in the summer of 83, I had not heard of the word house or house music or any of that. It was really just about the Hot Mix 5 and mixing and dressing preppy and, you know, whatever. But by the time I was a high school freshman, I'm hearing about this house stuff. And I'm seeing, well, firstly, I went to a neighborhood grade school, but my high school was located downtown in the Loop. So I left the block. And in order to get exposed to certain things and movements, you know, if you on a part of town where ain't nothing really happening, you got to be where the action is. And, you know, it's a lot of cool, honest, beautiful people in my community, you know, on the West Side. But a lot of these kids, they wasn't up. They wasn't house. So I had to be where the house shit was. Me and some of my friends, we would go to a neighborhood place on the West Side on Madison off of Cicero called the Factory. It was a neighborhood joint. We go there to be stars. And then at midnight, it's time to go to the real party, the music box. So it's like levels to this house experience. Levels simply because if you were a kid who were not allowed out the house, your access to dance music culture was the radio mix shows. But the caveat about the radio mix shows was that everything wasn't played on there. You like the Hot Mix 5, you had 5 guys, a Saturday night show that started from 10 o'clock to 3 or whatever. And each dude would submit an hour set. So nobody's consulting with one another. They're doing their set, turning it in. So you listen to the radio show, you might hear the same track 5 different times from 5 different DJs. But if you were going, like, if you went to if you were able to go out, but you were not able to go to no underground shit, then you were going to a neighborhood party, like I mentioned, the Factory on the West Side or Da Vinci Manor, or if you're on the South Side, you were going to Blue Gargoyle or the Rink Zone or the Pleasure Dome or someplace like that. But that's the second level. But the next level was the underground, the places that don't open until midnight. The Power Plant, the Music Box, the Warehouse, Club Luray. These were the rooms where things happen with the culture. You had some pivotal guys here musically, but in my opinion, 2 of the biggest, most influential guys were Frankie Knuckles and Ron Hardy. They were 2 different people in that Frankie, you know, he's from New York City. He came here with a sound of his own, and Ron Hardy was born here, and he had a following and all. So I think what gave Hardy an edge with people my age was that he was an unorthodox DJ in that if you showed up at the music box with a cassette or reel of a track that you thought was dope, you know, and if he played it and he thought it was hot enough, he would play it. Frankie was not so much. He probably had to live with something. He wasn't gonna play something probably that night. And if it was tracky, you know, his music was more musical in ways that, you know, Hardy could get more tracky edits that can get kind of repetitive, you know. Frankie's style was different than that. But toward the end, before he left Chicago, he was playing a lot of Chicago stuff because a lot of that music was getting attention all over the world. So he could not ignore it. He had to, you know, be at the helm. So Hardy was the DJ you went to if you had a track and you felt like, you know, it could make noise. You took it to him. And in most cases, certain things, acid tracks, that was heard at the music box first. Certain things were heard there first and then made it to the radio down the line. So you could not be someone sitting at home recording a hot mix on a Saturday night thinking you were on top of the music, because you were not. Things were heard in these underground rooms before they make it to DJ International record label or Trax record label to sign. And in a lot of cases, by the time it gets signed, some of the characteristics of the music changes. Music is the key. When it was a raw track before the lyrics, and it was told to me that, that was, it was demanded, hey, you need a song, or, these tracks need to have song qualities about them. So these things change by the time it makes it to wax. And you can have, like a track like Mysteries of Love. It made it to vinyl, but the raw version was the one that people preferred. Same with Move Your Body. Same with here's one, Donnie. Before the rap was added, it was just a raw track that Hardy used to play, and the kids would go crazy. So by the time it was pressed and released and all, it changed characteristics. It's House by Tip E. The real version, the version that was on the reel or whatever, you hear every nuance in the track. But the wax version, the one that was pressed to vinyl, it don't sound great. You don't hear every nuance. There's a snare in His House. The sound quality of those vinyl recordings were not great. And it was a lot of nuance missed on that, on the vinyl copies of some of these releases. So yeah, hearing these, depending on where you heard something, it mattered. I have a friend, his name is Johan. He's from Europe. He's from Belgium, but he was here in the 90s going to school. He's an engineer. And this guy would take American cars and ship them, home to Belgium. But we met at the record store here, Gramophone. He would play cassettes of the records he had at home that he recorded. And, they were all Chicago house records. And he's from Europe. He's all happy to play this stuff for me. And he don't realize that, everything that came out of this town, we did not get into. I mean, if you followed a DJ, you followed his taste. And Frankie and Ron Hardy didn't play everything.
I'm talking to myself. I was my bad. Talk to me. How did you meet initially, and describe your friendship?
How did I meet Frankie? Oh yeah.
How did you meet Frankie? Number one, and number two, describe your friendship.
I met Frankie through two people. Craig Abdullah and we worked at a place called the Chicago Mercantile Exchange here in Chicago. We both worked for different brokerage firms. Craig was a phone clerk in the trading pit of the meat, probably, I think, pork bellies or something. He was a phone clerk there. And I was running orders in the daytime, and I was working actually two jobs. I was running in the day. I have a 2-hour break, and then I was a computer operator doing the nightly processing at night. So I met Craig on the floor, and we struck up a friendship and all, because, he's a fashionable guy. I was, and I think through him, there was a concert. Yeah. I think Incognito was performing here at Navy Pier, Skyline stage, and Craig came to that concert. I was there, and then I met a friend of his named Frederick Dunson. Frederick Dunson is the executor of the Frankie Knuckles Foundation, and he was one of Frankie's best friends here. So upon meeting Frederick and finding out who he was and all, because he would produce 2 events here, one on July 4th and one on Thanksgiving for Frankie. It would be a twice a year party. He decided to do that because there was a venue here that he would play at after he had moved away, and I guess he had got wind that these people were being kind of rude, nasty to his people on the door. So he just figured, why not just start a production company, and our people won't have to deal with that. So knowing that Frederick was one half of D&E Entertainment and I'm an aspiring DJ, I would just flood him with cassette tapes. Here, Frederick, check this out, check this out, check this out, check this out. So that went on for, I don't know, a few years, 3-4 years. And Frankie decided to move back home to Chicago back to Chicago from New York City. New York is his home. But yeah, he decided to come back, and Frederick planned a birthday party for him at his house. And because Craig Abdullah was part of the inner circle and he decided, that he wanted to fool with DJing for some reason, he wasn't, back in the day or whatever, but later on he decided to try his hand at it. And so Frederick decided to have him play and myself. So we went by the apartment, Frankie, well, actually, before we went to the apartment, there was a party at a place called Spy Bar here. And Frankie he wasn't inside the party. He was like outside on the door talking to somebody or whatever. And that was my actually first time meeting him. He knew who I was. And he was talking to a friend. I didn't want to interrupt by speaking or whatever. So I just, kept stepping. But before I got past him, he said, "So you think you're going to come in my house and turn my sound system up, huh?" I was scared. I was like, no. He said, "Oh, it's cool. Come by the apartment, with Craig. I'll show you around the system. It's all right." It was funny. He did that on purpose. But yeah, our friendship was, I was living vicariously through him, bro. At the time, I decided to go back to school. Years of not doing right by high school and all. I was a high school dropout because I was on the party scene, hanging out and shit. So, I fulfilled the general education requirements for that some years prior. And at the time, my son was going into high school. And, it was told to me, you can't tell these children to do things if you have not done them. So as he was going into the world of high school, I decided to go back to school, and I went to Columbia College here. I was in the design program, advertising art direction. So as I would get my grades, I show my son my grades. Hey, dude, I ain't getting all A's, but I'm trying. So I did my best to lead by example and try to work on self-improvement. I was always somebody who was willing to work, for what I wanted and all, but wasn't a terribly polished guy. I needed to deal with education and do right by that. So I graduated in 2007, have my degree, and I was ready to go into the ad world and all. I did a lot of freelance work, which got old quick because I kind of found myself chasing deadbeat clients more than I was, getting paid. So I work for county government. Um, I I work in what's called the traffic division. Um, the person who basically hooked me up with the work at county, um, he sat me down and he said, "Look, there's a position at Leo Burnett, an advertising firm, which is big here." He's like, "Yo, I can get you at Leo," but at the time they had lost one of their biggest clients, which was the U.S. Army. So he's like, "Yo, you can come into Leo on a Monday and mess around and be laid off by Thursday because you know this is a industry of earning." So we lost the U.S. Army. There's another client down the line, but shit, right now he ain't here. So he said, "Yo, take this county job. When the economy gets better, come back to that ad stuff." But I just never did. But the beauty of being at Columbia College and working part time in the audio arts and acoustics department is that's where I met my production partner, Andrew Emil. Um, so it was serendipitous that I was there. Um, I always wanted to produce musical ideas. Um, I would eventually have done it, but I think it helps you and your work when you work with someone who's classically trained. So your music don't sound like, some goofy shit that you are gonna hate 5 years ago because it's not rooted in anything logical or musical, you know. Um, I got an ambitious production I'm working on right now. It's a cover of a Narada Michael Walden song called Tonight I'm All Right. All conventional instruments. I have Derek McKenzie from Jamiroquai on drums. I have Tom Leroy, badass dude from Brighton, UK. He's got music. He's known all over out here. Will Kirk, William Kirk has worked with Anthony Nicholson and some of the better uh, players out here. I got my guy on lead and rhythm guitar, Shamrock guitar. He's from South Africa. Um, and I got a great guy from Argentina on bass. And I'm embarrassed. I can't remember his name right now. Um, but I found him. Thing about uh thing about this production stuff is you don't have to you don't have to fool with samples. There are players out here on a site called Fiverr. F is in Frank, Iverr. You can hire a badass bass guitar, lead guitar, piano player for like $90. You know, um, so yeah, I found great players there, and most of them were just through you know connecting with people, other creative people, because as David Mancuso would say, this thing is about circulating money or green energy. So I'm not I'm not circulating anything if I'm just sitting at a computer manipulating samples. I'm not helping anybody out who plays an instrument who can use some work. I'm gonna put them to work.
What does house music mean to you?
Um, to me, it means uh, damn. What does it mean? It means um joy. Uh, it means quality. In the right hands, it means quality. It means joy. It means uh, yeah. I guess it depends on the hand on the individual. I think in the right hands, it means quality, joy, and everlasting and musical impressions.
And then the part two of that is how do you define soulful house?
Oh, well, all right, hold on. And it's necessary, right? I mean, because a lot has happened since the very first production that was recognized as house, whatever that is. If it's On and On by Jesse Saunders, or if it's Your Love by Jamie Principle, whatever. A lot has happened since those times. And a lot of people have gotten involved outside of the nucleus, like hip hop, you know. Um, some of us are purists. Um, no disrespect to nobody, but I like my hip hop from the East Coast, where it came from. I ain't saying that people in other places don't have relevant voices, great voices, but I'm just partial to the birthplace. So saying that to say, over time, other regions and places have put their stamp on the sound or their spin on the sound. And because a lot of these places don't have a terrible whole lot of Black people there, I think, yeah, it's necessary to point out what's unique about Soulful House. So yeah, Soulful House probably meaning that it's something that is gonna have some substance to it, some brevity, some quality. Once again, but in the right hands, because you got people they just out here manipulating samples, and that's cool. There's a lot of great work done like that. Um, but we moving into periods where I think people are becoming weary of certain things. There's a huge resurgence of disco right now. Um, and it's necessary because people like tangible things. You know, they associate disco with records, you know, a tangible object, you know, that you play on a turntable. I can appreciate that. Um, but yeah, once again, in the right hands, Soulful House is everything that you appreciate in this musical culture. There needs to be a distinction because just saying house means, depending on who you're talking to, they think you mean some DJ that throws pies and cakes at people. That's in the theatrics. We didn't come into this by theatrics. We came into this by music.
Facts. What happened to the DJ residency? Is that important today in establishing one's career?
Um, I don't know what happened to it, but I don't know if it's necessarily necessary to, you know, for one's career, because it's been how long since somebody significant that we revere to have a residency in Manhattan? How long has it been? A long time, right? People partying in the boroughs now. It used to be that was frowned upon, right? 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you know, if you were coming into Manhattan, you were part of the bridge and tunnel crowd. So, but that's where the party is now. So, but back to the question, residency. I don't think it's necessary. But I I tell you this, if there was somebody that I appreciate musically who had a residency, I would probably be leaving out of the house more than I do. I like tonight, I got an option. I could go, there's a spot here called the Ramova Theater. Two guys I know, Vic Lavender and Rahan, are playing there. That's a vibe, that's a worthwhile night. But shit, I got a whole bunch of records I need to be archiving. So I got options, you know. But yeah, um, damn, what was the question? I didn't want to do that. I didn't want
It
to
was
be
about
that.
the residency and if the
Oh yeah,
resident
yeah, yeah.
relevant.
So yeah, the people that I will check for, this is a one-off. You know, they ain't out all the time. Not in America at least. So you, if you appreciate certain guys, certain music, you get it where you can because it's not out and available all the time. And I'm not one, you know, to have my presence every and anywhere, you know. Why should I be every and anywhere? You know, a place has to qualify to have my presence. And if I'm 55 years old, but when it comes to this culture, this music culture, I'm still that 15-year-old kid who has to learn from you. And if you can't turn me on anything musically, then I'm in the house where I'm supposed to be.
You mentioned being at the warehouse during the Frankie Knuckles era. What common mistake do you see DJs make?
Um, I a lot of people that I pay attention to, I don't know if they do. I think these are bright individuals who do everything musically intentionally. Um, what now mistakes? The mistake might be that we are opinionated people who should not share our opinions with any and everybody. I think if there's a mistake, it's that because case in point, a a great friend of mine, who's a DJ as well. His name is Daryl Spivey. Um, Daryl, I learned how to match beats, but I didn't develop a sound or style of my own until I got a stereo system of my own, if that makes sense. So I met I was at Daryl's house. He and a buddy of mine had a loft downtown in the early 90s. And we're hanging out at their place. And I'm watching these guys play and do their thing and all. And we're guys who experienced the Music Box, Power Plant, Club Luray, all the significant things here. So we're in the 90s, and things are changing. So one of the fellas, Ari, he was mixing, going from one selection to another, and me being this purist goofball that I thought I was, I said, and Daryl was within earshot of it. I was like, Hardy wouldn't have done that. So Daryl, what he did is issue a challenge to me by saying to me, "You ain't Ron Hardy." So, in my opinion, most people would have, got on the ego trip and got angry and or whatever. But he was a good friend in that he issued a challenge to me, and I'm glad that I was perceptive enough to pick it up. So what happened was through he took me because I wasn't buying music. I was stuck in this old school, what Frankie would call disco purgatory. So Daryl took me to Gramophone Records one day and told me, shit, start digging, get in them crates, listen to things, find out who you appreciate, a producer or whatever, and keep that name on file. So when you see other productions and you see that guy's name on it, you know, have a listen. Prior to me developing a style or a sound of my own, when I was basically mixing and beat matching as a teenager, we were chasing down the records that are songs and tracks that Ron Hardy and Frankie Knuckles made famous. But by the 90s, you had to, they were not around the pattern after. You had to, you had to find a sound of your own. And through trial and error, buying records, tons of records, Some things that I look back like, what the hell I buy that for? It was part of the process. You find your sound. And it was because I adhered to the challenge that Daryl gave me. I found my sound, and finding my sound allowed me to work with Frankie.
Describe what it was like working with Frankie. And Frankie, I know you opened up for him several times. So tell us about that experience. Do you have a memorable moment
Oh,
the time you
many,
opened up for Frankie?
many. It was well, you wait for you he would call you, for the opportunity and all. So the closer you get, it gets to Memorial Day weekend, you know, in April or May, because the party's gonna happen in July. He'll call, hey kid. He had a nickname for me, Kid. So he'd go, hey kid, what you doing on July 4th? Nothing. He's like, you want to play some records? Oh yeah. So I would go for the whole experience. D&E Entertainment would distribute their flyers up and down spots on the north side of the city, and I would assume that role. Um, Take a box or two of flyers, and I'd make the rounds. Back then, you had a lot of different fun little cute boutiques in Lincoln Park. You also had a big uh, Tower Records with two different jazz sections, one for just vocal jazz and one for instrumental jazz. You had a big section for classical. They had a ginormous magazine section. It was just a place to hang out. So, you making around, drop a few flyers there, a couple other stores. It was basically a mile and a half round I would make dropping off flyers. And then, you people are talking about it, and you buying your music because you getting ready for the night. You don't know what's gonna happen, but this is an event. You don't want to play nothing old and familiar. You want to this is the House of Blues. Frankie would incorporate a $7,000 sound installation in addition to what the House of Blues was a concert hall. So their system was not conducive for our music. So he would have a $7,000 installation in that joint and had that room sounding great. Before I was working with Frankie, I was always at, that party, dressed to impress, ready to get an ear full of great music, socialize, kick it, and come home with a new song to sing. Because Frankie was somebody who would always break something out that was hot, you know. Um, so yeah, if I can't learn from you, I can't patronize you. So I was always where Frankie was. That was our thing, our connection. We were into what Frankie called the discovery of something new. Um, you don't get that listening to the same stuff over and over. I mean, there are things that always be in my collection, high on my list, but it don't stop with those things. There's got to be more. Great old memories, but we got to create great new memories. We
What's the
all
biggest
saw we all saw some great stuff, growing up, legendary things, but that was then. My life ain't over. I ain't ready to cash out. It ain't over.
what's the biggest misconception about Frankie Knuckles?
Misconception? I don't know. Um, I don't know. All. Well, I don't know. In the living years, people who knew of me but didn't know him would approach me with goofy stuff to say, like, you should tell him to play more classics. Like, if you don't know him firstly, and if you did, you would not have the guts to try it. Do it and see what'll happen. I don't know what would happen, but do it and see what'll happen. Yeah, in the living years, I was sounding, every goofball with a stupid opinion about why he don't play classics. I heard it all. And it would be kind of annoying at times. Because I'm not his spokesperson. I'm Elbert Phillips. I work with him. Um, so yeah, that was the biggest. That was, I don't know if that wasn't a misconception, but it was a thorn in my foot at times with common people.
So this is a hypothetical. I've got a friend in Amsterdam. He's coming to Chicago for the first time.
Yeah, yeah.
Paint the picture for us for the Chicago scene. If he's coming to Chicago, say now or next week or next month or in the summertime, tell us about the Chicago scene. Where do you start the night off? Where do you end the night off? What are the cool spots to go to? Do you go to North Side, South Side, East Side, West Side? Like, paint us a picture of the current state of the Chicago house music scene today.
If I had a friend coming into town right now and on a Saturday night like tonight, I would probably take him to the Ramova because once again, these are friends playing Vic and Rahan. I would take him there. Um, but yeah, there's not a whole lot I can say about the community musically. I there's not, but if it were summer, then hey, I would we would be in every park. Because there's a lot of community park activity stuff going on every day of the week, all along the lakefront. And you got the big chosen few picnic. You'd have to take someone there, simply because that's that's the biggest event of the summer. Um, um, Truthfully, am I gonna? I've never left that park turned out musically, but socially, it's the party of the year. Um, you got to go to it. Um, there's generations of people from this community and outsiders as well. It's you also got the Chicago House Festival in the summertime. These are places I would take people more so than spots or clubs because I don't really go out much. Um, and once again, simply be, because of music, the guys that I respect musically are not playing out these days. So um, I'm not single. Uh, when I was when I was single, I found myself going out more so for social purposes than anything. But now that I'm not, me and my lady, we've been together. Sharon and I have been together since 2012. We met in high school. I liked her back then, but I didn't know how to close the deal. So um now we're together and I roll. I don't go out. Fuck them. Why am I going out? Ain't nobody playing nothing I want to hear. These guys are common musically. They sound like they're handing the same damn flash drive from one guy to the next on the box. I don't do that. Um, I come from, you know, standards. Um, and if people don't operate or move by them standards, then I'm in a controlled environment. Music when it comes to music, I'm in my house. I produce music. I'm listening to people. I got great guys I listen to on the regular. David Lynn, he's in London bad boy, badass. He's always turning me on to something great. My brother Boone over there as well, Dr. Bob Jones, Jeremy Newell, Randy Peterson. There's a lot of great guys over there that's doing things with this music that's incredible. And once again, even though, like I said, a lot of the guys I respect ain't playing out, but I'm checking for them at home. My brother Daryl Spivey here, Daryl Mellowman here, he plays out quite a bit. He's a great DJ in my opinion. But yeah, I don't go out to go out. I need a musical reason to go out.
You always kept your day job while you maintained your DJ career. A, why did you do that? B, how were you able to keep that balance?
Well, funny thing is, when I was working with Frankie, I was in college. I was at Columbia College. And for whatever reason, I couldn't find a job to save my life. And it was probably for the better because I never got into delayed gratification. You know, I grew up profoundly poor. So shit, when I was able to get a job and work, I was working. So, but at the same time, my grandmother had sisters. They're from the South. My grandmother's sisters went to college at a time when Black people, by and large, could not go. They all went to Alcorn College in Mississippi. So, as people, friends, and folk who cared about me, you know, began to say to me, "Yo, dude, you need to polish up." And I'm thinking to myself, "Wait a minute. It's my aunts went to school and black people by and large could not. What's my excuse?" So a day job meant this is why I kept a day job. Most of the dudes, when I decided to come back into this DJ music stuff and buy a stereo and commit to it, most of the dudes that were going to the record store, they were working in bars, you know, playing, you know, nights and all. And the store gramophone, depending on who you were in the community, you would have the privilege of creating a whole bag of records to be picked up in a couple days or a week. Me having a day job versus a lot of these guys playing in, you know, taverns with drunk barflies, they ain't really had the bread to be buying records like that. So even though I'm coming through with money, I was on the outside of the politics of the record store. So I had the buyer at the time at Gramophone that bought the music that, you know, Soulful House or Underground House. His name was Oscar McMillan. And Oscar, I remember telling him about a record that I knew was coming into the store in a week or so, a couple weeks or whatever. And I just wanted him to know that I knew about it to ensure that I get a copy. So the way things would go, Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, UPS comes through with the boxes. You know, they're unboxing stuff. They got the tape gun out, you know, they're pricing stuff, divvying up what's theirs and what goes out on the floor. So this record that I anticipated coming through, only a finite amount of copies came through. And I ended up without any, not one. So I'm in the back of the store, and one of the owners was at the front counter, and I'm throwing a temper tantrum in the back of the store. I said to my man Oscar, I got $400 in my pocket. Why can't I buy some records? So Joe Dale, the owner, one of the owners, he heard that. So he bolted to the back of the store. Hey, Oscar, you got to take care of him. Because, you know, the store's political. And Joe is like, fuck political. This guy got money, man. Sell him some records that he wants. So dealing with that political stuff forced me to go outside of the city and I developed a relationship with Dance Tracks in New York and Dubspot. That's how I met David through the store Dubspot. What was her name? The owner, Makoto, was the owner, and she hired David. And of course, that's the best person to have behind your counter because people want to play what he plays. So we struck up a friendship, and every 2 weeks I get a box of records from David. That was the best shit ever. And somehow through these friendships and associations, um, David and Frankie are gone, unfortunately, but it's like legendary people step in and step in. I can call Francois Kevorkian if I choose. I'm a privileged guy. And I think it's all because I held true to quality when I make music, when I play music.
What's the most valuable lesson you learned from Frankie Knuckles?
Programming. Like a comedian tells the right joke at the right time, pardon me, Frankie would always play the right selection at the right time.
Give us an example, say more.
Um, all right, I take that back. Bravery. That's what I got from what I gleaned from him. Bravery, musical bravery. If he liked the song, he played. I had like 3 cassette tapes of a night where I guess he had broke Trap by Colonel Abrams. He played Trap 5 times. Who got the guts to do something like that now? When Craig Loftus had made his tune Mary Mary, we were working together at Sound Bar. Frankie played it 3 times one night. I mean, I missed that bravery. I was at Shelter one night ages ago, and Circa de Me, it wasn't out yet, but Timmy had it. He played it 3 or 4 times that night. You don't have that kind of bravery anymore. People imposing their musical will. You got like a bunch of chicken-hearted superstars who just want to be liked out here. It's like the crowd tells them what to do. They don't impose their musical will. Fuck that.
What was it like playing at Bang the Party in Brooklyn?
Oh man. Dynamite. Feeling like this is why I do this shit. One particular night, a bunch of us from Chicago were there. Steve Price, Charles Matlock, myself, and a bunch of friends. But we're there as DJs, so we playing the music. One night, it was Friday night, Sybil was hosting. Rest in peace, Sybil. Most of the guys had played already, and Charles and E-Man, they were especially cool. So it was looking like I was about to go on, but it was seeming like he was going to let Charles go another round before letting me go on. But fortunately, he let me step up. And when I'm in certain situations where I feel like, this is the time to let loose, I play like my life depended on it, or depends on it. And the room went up. I did my thing. It was strong. Steve Price joined me, and together we went 1 for 1, and it was just one of them nights where uh the music it's like the music played itself to a certain point, and then to take a break, step outside on Fulton and look at them towers, man. It's heartbreaking. I'll never see that again. That's when Brooklyn was black.
How do you discover new music to incorporate into your sets?
Listening to my brothers, David Lynn, Boone, Dr. Bob Jones, Daryl Spivey, spending countless hours on Bandcamp and TrackSource. I probably should pay more attention to Beatport, but yeah, Bandcamp, TrackSource, and friends.
Which party or venue do you miss from Chicago's golden era?
You know what? Golden era. Oh boy, hey, it's just got to be the box then. Since you said golden era, it's got to be the box. Simply because I didn't go to the power plant. I didn't feel like I was put together well enough to be up in there. But the thing about the the um the energy and the talk that was surrounded around Ron Hardy, he was like, well, no, yeah, I ain't the best dressed motherfucker, but I'm going there. I am not gonna miss out on this. And my first night was like anybody's first night. You don't dance. You on the wall in awe of what you hearing, what's coming through the speakers, the people, the community in the room. I at 55, I couldn't be involved with no damn music box. As that music, as loud as it was, yo, I would, if I got there at 1 or 2 on a Saturday or Sunday, technically 2 a.m. Sunday morning. The funny thing about the box was you get home, go to sleep, you sleep all afternoon into the evening, you wake up, it's Sunday, it's 10:30, 11 o'clock, it ain't shit on TV, but George Michael's Sports Machine or Doctor Who, or some shit you don't want to watch, and your ears are just ringing. I couldn't that level of I couldn't deal with that at this age without I had to have earplugs in my ears. But yeah, the box would be it. Yeah. If we're talking about places that made me musically, yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges you face in your DJ career?
Um Being in a room where the people can hear me. Because in my opinion, nowadays DJing is about more than DJing. It's about things that have nothing to do with playing music sometimes. Popularity. I went to Erasmus High School and everybody knows me, and I made this career as a real estate agent, and now I'm about to parlay it into some parties as a DJ. And you know, if the crowd loses its edge, which it has, people my age, most people have lost their edge. So they're gonna opt for that corny motherfucker who they know from high school, who's gonna play all the things that they remember when they were slimmer and sexier, or whatever. People who don't want to do the work and be sexy and hot now. They want to be back in the day, live back there when they didn't have to do much but just show up somewhere. That's what you up against, people's memories. You know, people don't live in the present musically. So yeah, I'm not somebody high on nobody's list in this town. But when my man David Lynn throws a party in London, the community is there for me.
How do you approach the business side of music, such as negotiating gigs and managing your brand?
Um, I I allow people, if you reach me, then you know what I do. So there's not much I gotta do to sell myself. My productions, my music productions are my business cards. And because those business cards consist of musicians, um, a blending of electronic and live elements, um, these things tend to stay with people in ways that hot sampled tracks with no conventional instrumentation can kind of fade out of, you know, the attention of the public. I mean, people songs don't last long nowadays, period. But I think when you begin with quality elements like live instrumentation, you might have a little more. Look, your project may have some more legs than the average hot track sample. A classic with a heavy foot under it. That ain't production. It works. It's effective. It's definitely effective. But shit, you gonna want to listen to that cheap shit 18 years from now? I mean, some people do it great. Um, and those productions last, but the bulk of it don't. If we really talking.
And this interview is about really talking. So, um, how do you balance your personal life with the demands of being a DJ?
Oh shit,
Maintaining a
easy.
relationship, being a father, like how do you?
Oh well, my son is 34 now. I'm back then when he was coming up, when I was, working, when I was more so active. Here the thing is, um, my age group in Chicago is considered aged out of downtown nightlife. You 50 something, we ain't checking for you. Every now and again, we'll have an event with a DJ that you appreciate or whatever. But by and large, you considered aged out of nightlife if you're a certain age. So you're in these taverns, on the South Side or whatever. And having a day job means that I don't have to do none of that. Because that ain't, in my opinion, that's not what this music is born of. It didn't come from taverns. I know that's the situation that we're in now, but once again, having a day job means that I can go to places like that, but I don't have to be musically a part of that.
Talk to me about your record label. Tell people
Integrity.
what it. Yes, how'd you come up with the name? Tell us about the concept, its mission, the vision. Talk to us.
I named the label Integrity simply because sometimes, actually, a friend, Steve Lofty, from Chili Funk, he did an interview with he did an interview where he was talking about how he would have to, as a label owner, manage expectations, because sometimes people have ideas of what this industry is about, and then once they get involved, they find out otherwise different. They got a different feel for, they don't feel the same after being involved, most people. So I started integrity because when I start a project, my players get paid. Shamrock Guitar, Tom Leroy are two of my core people. Um, Andrew and Mills, my partner. But yeah, those two, oh, yeah, they're my core players. So, and we've been working together. Shamrock and I have been together since, I don't know, 2014, 15. Tom Leroy has been with me probably about 3 years. Tom is brilliant. Shamrock is brilliant. They don't need me, but because when they say here with a production file, I say here with that green energy. So I think integrity is about that. Managing expectations positively, meaning if you deal with us, you're gonna feel good about what you've done with us beyond the release date, because you will be paid for the work you did, and your work, I'm not gonna cheap out. When Tears was produced, Chili Funk put it out, but I hired Sarah Foote to promote it. It ain't about getting with a label to say what can you do for me. It's like, yo, what can we do together? How can we make this project a success? I could have been on some, yo, let's go half on the promotion. Nah, I want to make sure this shit done. Get it done and get it out there. Sarah Foote has a hell of a Rolodex. The right people get her promos. So when she distributed Tears, that was the best move I could have made for the project, because it got in the right hands. Everybody didn't appreciate it because, once again, this is a song. Sorry.
We lost you for a second. So you said everyone didn't appreciate it, and then
Yes. Hello? Hello, are you there?
I'm here.
Can you hear me? Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, yeah, because you know what the thing is, you messing with people's memories, man. People, oh shit. Give me a minute. Back with you. People are, people revere that track. Somebody might have met their boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever on the dance floor to that tune, or a myriad of scenarios could have happened, because it came out in 1989. That was a long time ago. And people recall certain tracks with reverence. And you're taking a chance when when you fool with certain things, certain songs and tracks. A label that I shop Tears to, this goofy motherfucker had the nerve to say to me, there's certain things that shouldn't be messed with. Like, yo, I ain't asked for your opinion, man. Either you gonna sign the fucking track or not. And the irony of it is, he said that slick shit to me, but when Tears came out, he reached out to me for a copy. That's how goofy these people are, man. It's like, yo, you don't remember what you said? Why don't you just buy it? You got the nerve to reach out to me after you turn the track down? And now, hey, can I get a copy? Fuck you. Oh, fuck you. Andre Espo is my production partner, and because this dude was a friend of his, he obliged him. But he knew he wasn't gonna get shit from me. So yeah, sometimes you gotta be brave with it. Even if it seemed like you making an unpopular decision out here, go with it. Take chances, because you don't know what'll become of it.
Talk to us about your production process soup to nuts. So how do you come up with the idea? How long does it take you to make a track? When do you know that it's done? How do you know what it needs? Sazon, sofrito, whatever. Like, just break down and then talk to us about the release process. So walk us through production, soup to nuts.
Okay. All right, here we go. If someone commissions a remix, they send some, if it's a vocal or instrumental, maybe it's a saxophone or guitar. What I do on my process is simply to just live with it. Maybe the process is a day, maybe it's a month. The thing about it is you can have the idea, but the challenge is to produce the idea. Shamrock Guitar and Tom Leroy have been with me as long as they have because they're players who need little to no direction. I tell them, I send them a bed of a track or whatever, and because we got a understanding of what we appreciate musically. I mean, these are people I sought out. I heard Shamrock on a track that Andy Compton had out called "A Father's Love," and Tom Leroy is someone I've been checking and hearing and appreciating, and because my partner Andre Espo is well versed and knows a lot of people in the industry, he just plugged me up with him like that. So yeah, I start with an idea, and then I reach out to people who I've built relationships with, who have delivered constantly. Will Kirk, the pianist, he's somebody who, whenever I lay a project out before him, he breathes life into it. So yeah, it starts with an idea. We sit down, we create a bed being the drum beats and the bass line, and then we incorporate our players. Some players, once again, if they got the ability to record themselves and send a file to you, great. But sometimes, depending on what they did or what they didn't do, maybe something needs to be revised to get the feel you need. Maybe sometimes you can get overwhelmed with a project, and what needs to be done is you just step away from it for a week, 2 weeks, maybe even a month. I'm at a point now where my productions never have netted what I spend on them, and that's cool, because having a day job means that I'm not beholden to the profit like that. I'm beholden to producing the best possible project more than anything. So as long as I got a day job, I got a standard of living and I got a standard of quality. So I'm probably more of an artist these days than a DJ. Artist meaning I work and I employ people, and these productions may or may not be high on most folks' list, but if you're a peer and you appreciate quality, you're going to respect it. Because if you're a peer and you do this shit the way most of us do, you can't do it without blessing people, paying people. You can't say you into music and there ain't a player out there that you respect enough to pay. If you don't play an instrument, how you gonna make beautiful music?
That's facts. That's facts.
I mean, that's the ultimate form of appreciation, put money in somebody's hand. And if you telling somebody to do it for the love, you on bullshit. Because love don't pay no bills. None. I love my players. I can't change their lives yet, but I can get them the ultimate form of appreciation for their work.
What advice do you have for the next generation?
Do the work. Do the work. There are tools that make creativity easier, but bruh, utilizing a program like Mixed In Key will never suffice for the discovery and satisfaction of mixing in key with the software in your head for the first time. Do the work. Don't be afraid of doing the work. Presentation. Having a rare disco record is great. But if you can't present that shit in such a way, then what's it all for? I mean, with any discipline, there's a documented standard of excellence, right? And if you ain't a buster on the fast track somewhere, you're gonna go through the process. When I was 15, I was listening to and in awe of grown men who were playing records, and they were playing in ways that were indicative of the time and lives they lived, the time they lived on Earth. You can't do that shit in 2 years. If you about this shit, you're gonna do the work. You're gonna love it whether it's in or out of the money. Do the work. That's the only thing I could say to the next generation. And have fun. I mean, learning is fun. Why? What I need a cheap pro mixed in kit. Why I need a sync, but what fuck that? That ain't fun. but because we're of two different generations and two different experiences, that probably is a factor in it. We wanted to dissect things. We didn't want to practice in public in my day. You didn't want to show up anywhere unless you was ready to fucking hit the ground running, doing what you do and getting the respect of your peers. You never wanted to show up out here if you were not on 2 feet solid. They out here practicing in public, and that's plausible. Times have changed, but a lot of us who do this shit have not. So, if you came up in an era where you got a prize just for participating, you ain't gonna appreciate a guy for my era.
Just change tracks. What's the most unusual venue you've played at?
Unusual. I'm thinking. I can't recall one unusual environment. I mean, I have no expectations. I've played in offices that at night that were regular offices at night, but I mean in the daytime, but at night somebody decided, to with the keys to open this shit up and have a party. I've done that. I can't say I've had many unusual circumstances with parties or events. Oh well, all right. Here's one. there's a legendary sportscaster from Chicago. His name is Harry. His name was Harry Carey. He was known for commentating the Chicago Cubs games, and I don't know if he opened this room or somebody, licensed his name, but there was a bar called Harry Carey's. It's still around now, but through a source, there's a like a gay fraternity group of guys, and they like my music, and these dudes would have this. They had this event in this like place, Harry Carey's, a sports bar where you would not expect a bunch of queer professional dudes be partying at or having an event at. So yeah, that would probably suffice or make for unusual for me.
Looking back on your career, is there a moment that stands out that changed the trajectory of your career?
Oh, working with Frankie. Um, I mean, I went to Europe before I worked with him. I played in Paris in April of 2001, and we ended up working together, the following year in 2002. But thing about it is, I met some cool people, around. Plugged up with E-Man in New York, became a part of that community. Met David Mancuso. Um, we became friends. That was dope. But at home, I was a guy on a come up playing records. In a lot of cases, your peers don't have a problem with you until you begin to make moves or get opportunities that they believe they should get. So when it became known in the world that Frankie and I were collaborating, I didn't know him from, you know, back in the day, the warehouse, none of that. I didn't know him, but there were legions, scores of guys who had known him forever. And for me, I was a wild card motherfucker, showing up out of nowhere, able to work with the Godfather. um, I'd imagine when I played that birthday party at his home, a lot of DJ peer people were there, but the only person I remember who was genuinely pleasant and happy for that opportunity for me was Oscar McMillan. I had a camera and I took some pictures. And when that shutter locked eyes with some of these folk, these motherfuckers are angry. And the one picture I took of Oscar, he had a smile on his face, a genuine smile.
What's next?
We got to grow integrity. I have more ideas and I got green energy. So that means I got to take my time with these productions. Um, slowly, slow and methodically, these works will come out. And the reward, as my production partner Andrew Emile said in an interview once, the reward is the creativity. I had an idea, some friends helped me, and we saw it through. So yeah, just more meeting great players, meeting geniuses, meeting people who love this shit like I do, or people who, you know, great players who shit want some green energy flowing their way.
And the last but most important question, if people wanted to book you or hire you for a remix or hire you for a production, how do they get a hold of you?
Oh, through my email address, Elbert Phillips at gmail.com. I'm You can reach me on Facebook, Elbert Phillips. Integrity Recordings has a Facebook page. DJ Elbert Phillips is on Instagram. Yeah, so that's the vehicle. Reach out when you're ready.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time in the interview and the stories.
Thank you for spending some time. Thank you for having me.
Take care.
Big love, big love.
All right, peace.